G'day, Bomber fans. Well, the news that we all didn't want to hear has been heard. So our opening round game against the Suns, scheduled for this Saturday, has officially been postponed due to Cyclone Alfred. It's quite rare to see stuff like this happen. There's obviously a lot of frustration amongst fans. I myself am more annoyed because I thought I big-brained the hell out of the week by recording my match preview on Monday when I could actually speak. But now we don't have a match. But yeah, I mean, first things first, the most important thing is safety in these situations. And there wasn't really a way that these two games up north could go ahead with the weather concerns up there. It's not just a bit of wind and rain, it's a legitimate cyclone. So Brisbane and Geelong has been postponed. That match is going to occur in round 3, I think. And Essendon and Gold Coast, that's the big question. There's no set date or anything at the time of filming this video, so we'll see what happens there. I'll talk about that, but yeah, make sure if you're up north, you're well prepared. Stay safe, everybody. But let's talk about what this means for the season now, because unlike with Brisbane and Geelong, where they can just play in a few weeks, this postponement for us is very messy. So yeah, thanks Cyclone Alfred. Alright, so Cyclone Alfred is due to hit Queensland on Thursday. When I checked the weather and talked about it in my Monday preview that I had recorded, which you guys will never see, it looked like it would have eased up by the weekend. But as we got closer to the date, the forecast has begun to look a lot worse. It's expected that this cyclone, which by the way, Cyclone Alfred is just, it's the least threatening name you could give it. I get how this stuff works, but call it Cyclone, I don't know, Bruce, something that, you know, instills a bit of fear. But yeah, so, Alfred is expected to be going from Thursday to Friday. Huge winds, insane levels of rain. Saturday isn't a legit cyclone, I don't think, or labelled as one, but it's still up to 120, 130 mils of rain. So it's just not footy conditions, not safe to play in. But even if it was safe to play on Saturday, the main issue at hand for Essendon or that game in particular, the main issue is actually how the Bombers would get to the Gold Coast for the match, because clubs usually fly out the day before a match. They spend the night in the state and then play the next day. But flights will not be going ahead during a cyclone. That just goes without saying. And even on Saturday, I'm sure flights are going to be cancelled left, right and centre as well. There was a thought that we could potentially play against the Suns on Sunday instead, but that would still mean that we have to fly out on Saturday to get there, which isn't 100% a guarantee. So this was just the no-brainer decision to postpone it. Even if we did manage to fly out on Saturday, we would either be playing the day of flying, which from those who remember COVID was just shocking, or we would play the Sunday and have a 5-day turnaround against the Hawks, who had a much longer rest in round 1, which is just not ideal on bodies this early into the season. So yeah, the AFL made the correct call by postponing both these games, and it's just rare to see this happen. I'm trying to think of the last time I remember a game being postponed like this, aside from COVID, and I just can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm sure someone will have these facts and figures loaded up in the comments. Let it rip down below if you do. So the messy thing now is how we reschedule this game, because obviously we have to play 23 games in a season, the correct amount, the same as everyone else. Being a opening round team, we were scheduled to get a bye in round 4 and one later in the year when other teams are scheduled to have their byes too. Some will say we can just play the Suns when we're scheduled to have our bye, but the issue is Essendon and Gold Coast are actually not scheduled to have a week off at the same time throughout the season. We have our bye with Hawthorn, the first one. Gold Coast have theirs, I think, in round 2 with GWS before us. And then the mid-season byes, Gold Coast have theirs in round 14. Essendon have ours in round 16. So there actually isn't a simple fix to this at all. It's a little bit of a mess. Now, one that can only really put both these teams at a disadvantage as well as the year goes on. And I know people will say I'm complaining, but that is why the AFL hasn't announced a return date for this game yet, because they will have to seriously consider when is the best time for these teams to play. We're either going to be going back-to-back with COVID and have a midweek game, which is obviously horrible on bodies, or we have our bye at the end of the season, the week before finals, when teams get a rest, which if either team qualified for finals, it would be insanely controversial. So yeah, let's say either one of these, of the two teams is fighting for finals, they'll now be at a serious disadvantage at some point later in the year. This won't matter if both teams are shocking. We can just play an extra game at the end of the year. But whether it is during the season with a short turnaround or at the end of the year playing when we would have had to rest, we will have a bye. Now, a game, sorry. Now, I saw some talk about whether this could be hosted at Marvel this week and the later game be hosted at Metricon. That was the theory a bit with Essendon fans, switching our reverse fixture around. But that would still rely on Gold Coast flying in and out of the state, which is just obviously not going to happen. I am recording this pretty quickly after the announcement came out, so if there's anything more, I have missed it. But yeah, I mean, and also I feel like I'm defending the AFL a bit here, but I feel like I'm seeing so much criticism for the fixturing. I personally, I don't really rate the way the fixture pans out as it is, because I follow other sports where you got, soccer where you play both teams twice. It's really simple, but this particular mix-up is not a result of poor fixturing, I'd say. This could happen at any point of the year and create the same set of circumstances. If our home game against the Crows was postponed, we would have had the same situation. If the next week was postponed, we would have had the same situation, and probably so on and so forth. I think the only thing to blame here is the weather. There just isn't really a way where you can have a long season with so many breaks that cater to different teams in a sport so physically demanding and fix up issues like this on the run. And I like more footy. 25 rounds plus finals is great. I liked opening round last year. I don't think this is an issue the AFL created at all. Again, this is literally the first time I can remember a postponement like this in forever. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, people claiming that we should cancel opening round because of this. I mean, I don't really get why opening round is the cause. If this happened the week after with a Gold Coast game, or at any point of the year up on the coast, let's say our first game was next week against the Suns, we would still have to have the bye later in the year anyway when it doesn't suit us. I don't know. I could be well off the mark here. I might be missing something. I'm kind of just yapping. But yeah, opening round cancelled for us. No games this weekend for Essendon, Brisbane, Gold Coast or Geelong. It just means we start our season against the Hawks next Friday, which is a massive game, massive start to the home and away season. I'll give you guys updates as soon as we hear when our game is rescheduled. Maybe we've already heard it by now and I've just recorded a bit early, jumped the gun. But yeah, that is all for now though. Cheers for sitting through this. Like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, stay safe if you're up north, and go Bombers.